Let's do a really easy quilt binding. I'm going to make a little pot holder and show you an easy way to make your corners turn nice and sharp. I'm starting with a 3-inch wide strip of fabric, and I like to cut those for my binding from selvage to selvage so that when I come around corners or curves I have a little bit of stretch that I can use. Makes it form around the edges very nicely. You're going to notice that my little mini quilt here has been serged to hold all the layers together. Sometimes if I don't have a serger available, I would baste around the edges to contain all of the layers so that nothing is shifting underneath. I'm going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance for my 3-inch wide quilt binding, and that makes a very nice size to be finished on your quilt. You'll notice that I pre-turned under the first 1/2 inch of my binding so that it's already finished, and I've also pre-pressed my 3-inch wide strip in half. I'm going to follow the fabric with the side of the foot, and if you have a knee lift on your machine, that's a wonderful thing to use to lower your presser foot without having to let go of your fabric. And you'll also notice on the back of this FOF sewing machine I have a dual feed or an integrated dual transport that helps pull through the top layer like a walking foot. If you don't have a FOF, you can use a walking foot attachment. I'm going to begin stitching. I'll go ahead and back stitch. Of course, my measurements are adjustable so that if your batting was a little bit thicker, you might want a wider binding strip or a little narrower seam allowance. So you have all sorts of options that you can choose. Now I'm kind of getting close to my first corner, so what I want to do is stop with my needle down exactly 3/8 of an inch from my end, because that's how deep my seam allowance is. So if I sew 3/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric, I want to stop 3/8 of an inch from my next point. So I put a pin there to help me find that spot. And I'm just going to put my needle right down where that pin would be. Now I'll use my knee lift, and I'm going to lift up the presser foot, pivot, and I actually have the point of the fabric of my corner right in line with my needle, and I'm going to stitch straight off that point. Use my knee lift to pull the fabric out. So you see that little angle? Took me right off my point. I'll turn to the new side, and I'm going to fold the fabric straight, or the binding straight up, right along that angle that I just stitched, and fold it back down for the new side, matching the top fold with the top of my little quilt. I'm going to insert this back in the machine. Don't have to worry about my thread tails. I'm going to begin stitching right at the top folded edge at the 3/8 inch seam line once again. And now we'll show how you come back around to the beginning again.